Hey everybody, we're here with Game Time. Sorry we're just a few minutes late. Had a couple of technical difficulties, but we're coming on now. You just have me and Lurch this week. Angel's not going to be available. We're a little bit late, partly because Lurch is caught in a snowstorm up in, was it Minnesota?
Yeah.
Yeah, up in Minnesota. And I just found out that Angel wouldn't be here because of personal issues. That kind of thing happens. But we're here. We're going to have a show for you. It might be a shorter show. We might end a little early, depending, because I don't have a whole lot of topics to talk about. It is supposed to be our spoiler-free episode for Quantum Mania, but I don't know if Lurch even had a chance to see it yet.
I did manage to squeak it in on Sunday afternoon.
Right.
The rest of my weekend was really busy, but I managed to fit that in.
Sunday afternoons when I went and watched it too. I went to a 1 o'clock showing. I
tried to make it to like 3 different showings until finally I made one.
Well, so we'll try to do a little bit of a spoiler-free, because for those who are not familiar with it, we generally the week that a new movie comes out, if we get a chance to watch it, we try to do a spoiler-free episode first. Then a week or two after that, we'll come back and do the spoiler-heavy episode because we want to give people a little bit more of a chance to watch it first. But it's usually at the tail end of our media section where we do spoilers on the shows for the week. We're not going to talk, like I said, about too much today, so we might only have like an hour show tonight. But if Lurch is in a snowstorm and I'm dealing with sick people at home, that's just kind of what happens. For those who are not familiar, this is Game Time, where we talk about anything and everything about the nerdosphere, especially what affects us here at the Ozark, in Springfield, Missouri, and the surrounding areas. It first started because me and Lurch were part of the board for Gaming Arts Media Entertainment Expo, which is now no longer in effect. We had our last one last year, but we keep the gang together, as it were, here by covering stuff. We started it during COVID to keep in touch, and we're just keeping going as long as you guys will have us.
Yeah.
Usually we have Angel here with us, who is very knowledgeable on things like kaiju movies and comic book subjects, and he talks about Dungeons and Dragons topics now as being a newer 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons DM. But like I said, he's not going to make it this week. And our previous host was Greg Pullman, who stopped at the end of last year because he just got so busy. But he still does game night at a Hold Fresh Brewing Company on the 3rd Wednesday of every month. So go out and see him there. It's no longer sponsored by Games. His game is no longer defunct, but he's got some other local gaming interests that are helping kind of him put it on, and he provides his own games as well. And mostly it's his own games that he brings to his show, usually some fast casual. So definitely check that out. As is our new tradition now, we kind of ask at the beginning of the show what's been going on for everybody in their week. So Lurch, how has your week been?
Not to dwell too much on the stuff of why I'm in Minnesota with all these treatments, my girlfriend's cancer treatments. Besides that, I've been playing some Final Fantasy VIII, using my Steam Deck. I'm kind of wishing I had my PS5 with me. I didn't bring it with me for this trip. And I'm wishing I did, because PlayStation just released Legend of Dragoon, an old PS1 RPG game that I loved. They just released it on PS4 and PS5 on the digital store. Which, if you happen to have purchased it on either the PSP, PS Vita, or PS3 digital store, years back, or at any point, then you get the PS4, PS5 version for free. If you didn't, it's $10, $9.99. And I'm bringing that up because, like, I saw that announcement and I'm pretty excited for it. I was like, man, I haven't played that game in a dozen years probably. It's been so long. I played it last, I think, on my PSP, and I liked it so much. I like it more personally. I like it more than the PS1 era Final Fantasy games. Um, and it was my favorite RPG as a whole for a long time. It might now, I don't know what it is anymore. Maybe Skyrim. There's just so many really good ones these days, you know.
Right.
But so I'm feeling a little envious of people who do have access to the PS5s right now that could play, or PS4s even. They could be playing Legend of Dragoon. But I'm still having a good time with Final Fantasy VIII. I'm about 18 hours into it, I guess. I'm on disc 2. Like, you don't actually switch discs on the Steam version. I'm playing the Steam version on the Steam Deck. It's the remastered. You don't actually switch discs, but the save file still tells you what disc you would be on if you were playing a disc version of the game.
Right.
And so my save file says I'm in the area of the game that would be on disc 2. This is my first time playing Final Fantasy VIII. And yeah, it's been pretty solid. It's a little bit odd because the game puts a lot of focus on summons. Like, summons have always been kind of a big thing, but like this one gives you like 3 summons right off the bat at the very beginning of the game, and they're like core moves to use over and over again in the game. And I seem to remember even Final Fantasy 7 and 9, making you do a little bit more work before you start getting some summons, and for whatever reason, you still end up doing a lot of other moves. But I'm finding myself doing summons for 2/3 of my attacks.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, the summons in 8, you start with a fire summons, a wind summons, and a water summons?
You start with fire, Ifrit, ice with Shiva, and lightning with Quetzalcoatl.
Okay.
I just got the most recent one I got. I think was one of the most recent ones I got was water with Leviathan, and then just after that I got Diablos that does like gravity magic.
Right. Leviathan's badass.
Leviathan's really cool. And then I've got, I think the 4th one I got was Siren, which is like this angel, like, it's a siren. It's a winged creature on a rock playing a harp, and it's
the hypnotic one. Yeah,
it does a little bit of damage, not as much as the others, but it does cast silence on all the targets. So if they would normally cast spells, now they can't. But there's so much focus on the summons in this game. Not only do you use the summons a lot in terms of them using their attacks, but your abilities, your spells, your magic spells, and your other abilities, everything that's not just hitting with your sword or whatever, your main attack, anything that's not just that has to tie back to your summon, which they call guardian forces. And you have to equip a guardian force, and then you have to have that guardian force level up and learn all these different abilities that lets you junction actions and stuff. And so you have to have them to be able to equip the ability to cast magic and the ability to use an item. And instead of an MP system where you have 500 MP and this spell uses 12 MP and this spell uses 5 MP, or even a spell slot system like a Final Fantasy 1 or Dungeons and Dragons. Instead, what it does for magic is it's like an inventory of how many castings of this individual spell that you have, which you get primarily by fighting monsters that know that spell, and then you use a draw action to draw that spell and stock them in your character, in your guardian force.
Right.
It's a very unique mechanic for these Final Fantasy games. It's been interesting to learn these changes.
Yeah, Final Fantasy went different through several of its iterations, but they've always kind of focused on those summons. But the 8 was summons intensive, as I remember it. It's been a while since I played 8, but 8 was very summon-centric. All right, and then, of course, you got to see Quantumania this week, too.
Yeah, and I saw Ant-Man Quantumania on Sunday. Most of my time playing the Final Fantasy game is like in waiting rooms at the hospital.
Right. I get you.
So I'm playing it. I'm playing it in like smaller chunks. But I got to see Ant-Man Quantumania on Sunday afternoon. In this neat little theater they have here that has like heated seats.
Right.
Which was cool.
And did you get
we'll
to see
talk about
Flash this week too?
Was that episode 2 of the season?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I watched that. I watched that on Friday, I think. So yeah, I made sure I got that in so that we can talk about it later. And yeah, I guess that's all the stuff I've been able to do nerdy related. You know, I've been eating a lot. You know, we've been so busy with running around town and stuff. I've been eating out a lot.
I get you.
I've ate a lot of different restaurants while we're up here.
Well, it gives you a chance to try the local cuisine.
You know, so I had some Domino's delivered last night just because, like, we were exhausted and I was too tired to cook and we were at the house. I didn't want to leave again, so I just got some Domino's delivered. And it's the worst Domino's I've had in, like, a decade. Like, back home, I like the Domino's, but the Domino's here is not good.
Domino's, since they changed the recipe, has been better. I used to not like Domino's.
So. Well, like, the Domino's I got here, some of the slices were like a third of the slice was crusts.
Right, because they don't know how to balance their toppings and stuff and stop the air bubbles that cause it to slide over to the side.
Yeah, I don't even... Yeah, so yeah, the flavoring wasn't terribly good. The crust to toppings ratio wasn't good. I did have some of their chicken a couple weeks ago, and that was fine. But the pizza just sucked. So what about you? I guess that's kind of been my whole last week outside of doctor appointments, radiation, all that, just doodle and errands.
I've been playing a game called Wild Terra 2 New Land on Steam, which is another MMO that's very craft heavy. I love crafting games, so... Yeah. Me and my guildies we're still playing 7 Days to Die, but we've been playing a lot of Wild Terra 2 because I went and one of my guildies got me a key, and then another my guild leader got a couple of others of us keys, so there's 4 of us. Directly, our normal core group of 4 people are playing it, in addition to the other guildie that got me the key, and a couple others. So we're taking over Wild Terra 2. And it's going pretty good. It's got a really involved crafting system, which I like. Our group of fractures that we normally play is still getting a back-end server reconfig. I think I mentioned before on here that...
it's still happening?
Yeah, well, they use Spatial OS, and Zeus didn't actually go down until January 31st. It was supposed to go down on the 31st, and it actually was a couple days later before it actually went down. So, and they've been working on their back end pretty much all of January, and now into February, and they're looking like it probably won't be the earliest it'll come back up is March, but a lot of us think maybe April. Which makes sense. When you have to make a whole new server backend system, it can take a couple of months to configure something like that. So we've been looking for other things to occupy our time. And Wild Terra 2 has been our big go-to. In fact, I just went and put an auction house on my property in the game, and I planted like 20 plots of wheat. And so I've done a little bit of agriculture. I've got my agriculture up to like 11 now, and I just started agriculture yesterday. But it's a bit of a grindy game, but it's fun. And so that's what I've been doing mostly. Um, Now, around the house here, the 17-year-old tested positive for COVID yesterday. So we're in like lockdown. Uh, Allison has actually gotten 3 negative tests, so we know she doesn't have it. I also read that cats and dogs can get it, uh, but they're very unlikely to spread it back to humans. But it can be really bad for cats and dogs, so I had to take the new kitties away from both of them and not let them come to him until she got her negative test, which broke my heart last night to do that because, her girl kitty, like, lives at her side. They're glued together like they're Velcro. And so taking the kitty away just hurt. Uh, but that means I've been taking care of them, which is very different because, of course, I'm the handicapped person in the house. Normally, we think of me as the one that needs to be taken care of. So I woke up early this morning and made a brand new fresh batch of buttermilk biscuits and made sausage biscuit sandwiches for everybody for breakfast. And then I've been up and down playing my game and sleeping between that and sleeping and trying to find a good from the vault to show tonight. And I do have one. It's much newer than other ones that I've done, but it's still pretty good. I was actually talking to one of my guildies who lives overseas, and he suggested, and this is funny because he says, "Have you ever thought about doing from the vault, Mork and Mindy?" I was like, "I just did that last week." I was like, "Wow, what a coincidence."
Yeah.
So that's basically been my life, trying not to get COVID myself. So I've been staying basically away from them, and she's been going around wiping all of the door handles and everything with sanitary wipes when they do touch anything, and been basically quarantined into her room and him in his room, and I've been out just doing my own thing. So that's been us for this week. I will probably go see Quantum Mania again with Ralphie at some point, but I haven't tied up yet.
I'm hoping to see it a second time. So this first viewing I watched it with Allie, and she can't do the upright seats too well. She needs seats that recline as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went to those seats, which is not IMAX, but there is an IMAX theater here. And I'm hoping to go rewatch it on IMAX 3D, because this movie really feels like it belongs on IMAX 3D.
Yeah, I don't typically watch the 3D versions of movies. One, Ralphie gets headaches if he watches 3D, and he's actually my buddy. And two, with my left eye being practically useless, I don't know if I'll get the full experience.
Yeah, you won't with messed up with one of your eyes messed up.
Yeah, so that's why I wouldn't bother. I mean, because I've got the movie pass, it doesn't cost me any extra. But still, I will probably go and see that again. I also am looking forward to seeing Cocaine Bear this month. And there's a few others. There's a lot of movies to see in the next few weeks. So there's a lot of that going to happen. Anyway, let's dive into the show. We're almost half an hour into the show already. Hey. Maybe we'll get through it all. First thing I've got queued up for the show is the Sony announcement for PlayStation State of Play event for this week.
Yes.
So go ahead and go with that. And I'm going to eat some of my dinner while you do that.
Sure. So as this article points out, it is the first State of Play event for 2023. It's going to be on February 23rd, which is Thursday afternoon, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, however we need that broken down. They announced it in a tweet just earlier today that they were going to be doing this. We've been hoping for a State of Play for a little bit. If you're not aware, PlayStation VR comes out tomorrow. And now they got the State of Play that's dropping the day after PlayStation VR's release. we don't know a lot about what's going to be at this State of Play, but they did say there's going to be, Sony confirmed that there are 5 brand new PlayStation VR 2 games going to be shown at the State of Play. And then there's going to be some, they called hot indie and third-party reveals. And then an extended look at Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And I should mention those PSVR 2 titles are from partners, and so not first-party titles from the looks of it. So I would expect things like, Naughty Dog, VR or anything like that. But some third-party partners doing revealing 5 new PSVR titles. I'm hoping they're actual new VR titles rather than ports of existing VR titles, but we will find out Thursday. And then Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is, we're getting excited to look at that, so I would expect probably. And they mentioned on here maybe about a 15-minute gameplay showcase or something like that. We don't know exactly what it is, just an extended look at it, because it's coming up close. The last of these we got was back in September, where they announced Tekken 8, and they revealed Like a Dragon Ishin would be coming to the West. They showed some information about God of War Ragnarok that day. So they do sometimes show some, or these State of Plays, they do sometimes show some like kind of big items. So I'm intending on talking about it a bit more next week. I just want to make a brief, short message on this so people are aware that we are 2 days away from a State of Play coming out of Sony.
Absolutely. Also, there's a few things been happening in the media world that I was going to at least touch on. This last weekend, we had Portland Comic-Con was going on in Portland, Oregon. Nathan Fillion was supposed to be one of the guests there. And he was all excited because he was going to be in a room with like Sam Raimi and stuff. He's like, so I've made it, even though he's got like 1.7 million followers, and he's such a big deal to the nerd community anyway. But he was like all excited, and then like 2 days before the con, he had to report that he couldn't make it because he had the flu or a cold.
Yeah, I saw his tweet.
Yeah,
I saw his tweet about it.
He was all disappointed about that, and I'm a big fan of Nathan Fillion, especially I watch his new show, The Rookie. It's really good. But I've watched everything that Nathan Fillion's in. I mean, I love Nathan Fillion.
I really like Nathan Fillion, but I haven't watched more than I have watched of his stuff. Like, I don't watch The Rookie. I didn't watch The Castle or whatever that was.
Oh, Castle was really good too.
Yeah. But, I watched the Dr. Horrible Sing-Along blog. I liked that a lot. I loved Firefly.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, yeah.
I've not watched Buffy. I didn't remember he was even in that.
He was a bad guy in, like, season 5.
And so, I mean, I really like Nathan Fillion despite not seeing a lot of his work.
Right. The one most people remember him from is Firefly, / Serenity. Okay. Well, he's an amazing actor, and he's one of those nerdy actors that does some great stuff. So he was in the Neil Patrick Harris version of Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. He played Lemony Snicket's brother. So he played Patrick Warburton's brother for just the couple of episodes where they showed his brother in clips. He played the brother. So that was something.
That was an awesome fucking show. I had a good time with that.
I mean, as much as I was okay with the Jim Carrey version, Neil Patrick Harris, I thought, brought a lot more to the character of Count Olaf. And I thought overall the Netflix series was head and shoulders above the movie.
Yeah.
It was really, really good, and I was sad to see it end. It was really good. Um, what else in media? Oh, they're working on another reboot of Hellboy, as I shared with you earlier in the week. And
Yeah.
I'm a mixed. Uh, I'm I'm cautiously optimistic because I love the character, but
Sure.
David Harbour, who's a great actor, could not pull off a good Hellboy. Now, part of that was the writing and stuff. It wasn't David Harbour's fault.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
but
so
they
something
really
something about something about film and television. The two really the two or three. I guess the three biggest factors. Let's go to the two. The two biggest factors of whether a movie is good or not is going to be the writing and the directing. You can have mediocre actors that put out their best performance under the right director, and you can have amazing actors put out a mediocre performance under a terrible director.
right.
Um,
The producers and the directors bring out the actors and stuff, and the writers. The writers are
yeah,
important too.
you have to have a good script to work from because that is the framework of the entire product.
But it's really the director that draws out the actors'
Yeah.
performances.
So
If you don't have a
so
decent director who
yeah.
knows how
So
to frame the
so yeah,
shots and everything, you
they
just
kind of do two different things. You know, like the writer makes the story make sense and makes a compelling story. The director draws out the performance um, from the actors, and then you can make some clutch decisions. And then there's like one other guy whose title I can't remember, who's like really responsible for making sure the shots look good and things like that. But
yeah.
like
There's the stunt coordinator, and then there's the
yeah, and then and sometimes you can get a movie that's watchable if it has like an amazing actor, but the rest of it's bad. But it's still just gonna be like the best that it's gonna get at that point is watchable, you know?
right. And that's the thing. Even a bad movie can be made okay by a really stunning actor, but
Yeah,
only okay.
yeah,
And that's one of the things. So I'm not super optimistic about the new Hellboy because it's got a producer and director that have done very lackluster previous projects, in my opinion.
and writer. And I don't now remember exactly which combination it was, but I think it was like
They did.
I think one of them.
Ghost Rider.
I think one of them.
Vengeance and
Yeah, I think I looked at the thing when you sent it. I think it was like the director of the second Ghost Rider movie
yes,
and like the writer of Jonah Hex. I think that's what it was.
and Jonah Hex was a horrible adaptation. In
So,
my opinion.
so I was like, dude, okay, Hellboy's a cool ass character, right? But I don't know if we want the writer of like the worst DC movie pairing up with the director of the worst Marvel movie,
right?
and expecting gold for Hellboy.
I don't know if it's the worst DC movie, but it's up there. I would still say Steel with Shaquille O'Neal was the worst DC movie.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But it's pretty close.
So,
Jonah Hex did not feel like a DC movie. That was a big thing. But yeah, I absolutely agree, and that's why I'm a little bit hesitant about that. And there's so much going on in the media world right now. There's a big thing in the rumor mill, and it's not been confirmed by anybody, but there's talk that Grant Gustin might be doing a cameo in The Flash again. Now, that's been rumor mill a couple of times. I don't think it's going to happen.
I think that, I mean, it could be, but I haven't seen any good sources of the rumor coming out of.
Right.
I think it's just wishful thinking.
At most, I would think they might replay the scene where Ezra Miller guested in Crisis. They might just
oh yeah,
that clip.
just reuse that footage.
Yeah, which would cost them nothing and
Yeah.
show their multiversalness. But I mean, that would almost be a tease because I would much rather have Grant Gustin myself. I think
It would work though.
Great. Yeah, it would.
I mean, the way this movie is made and the way we know of the premise of the film, it's possible. Like, he could end up being the Flash in the end of the movie, but yeah, we could get an infinite number of anything.
Right.
I, for a while after watching the trailer, I thought briefly that we might have seen Christian Bale's Batman in the trailer, but someone shared with me like really high-res cut pictures of screenshots of that moment in the trailer, and that's definitely Ben Affleck. It was just hard to tell in the quick shot that we got in the trailer.
Batman in the movie is what I hear, but it is James Gunn has come out and said point blank, not that they've never misdirected us before, but James Gunn has come out and said it is definitely not an actor who has played Batman before. The only two that have played Batman before that are confirmed are Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton. So we're not getting George Clooney. We're not getting Val Kilmer. We're not getting Christian Bale. If there's another Batman in the movie, it will be a new person playing Batman. Not necessarily a new actor, but a new person as Batman. It will not be even Robert Pattinson. It will be somebody else, and then that's from James Gunn. But again, they've been trying to do misdirects a lot of times when they do these things. So who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole bevy of them could show up and we wouldn't know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot coming out. They're also been showing some great footage of Fast X, the 10th Fast and Furious movie. It is looking amazing, and I can't wait to see it.
It looks fun. I haven't seen a Fast and the Furious since 4.
I own them all.
But okay, here's the funny thing. I own probably all of them, but I've only seen 1, 2, and 4.
Oh, I love.
I didn't see 3.
Well, Tokyo Drift barely counts. I mean, it's okay, and it does introduce a character that comes in later on, but for the most part, Tokyo Drift is almost a separate movie. It barely fits into the franchise.
It's funny because like I didn't watch Tokyo Drift because I watched the second movie, and when I finished the second movie, I didn't like it. I loved the first movie. I didn't like the second movie, and I was like, it's not the same without Vin Diesel.
Yeah, the big thing is the second movie didn't have Vin Diesel, but it did have Paul Walker.
Yeah, and Paul Walker is my least favorite part of the franchise. I didn't like him and his character. I was really disappointed in the second movie because I didn't care for Paul Walker, and I was wanting Vin Diesel back, and I was hoping I didn't know he was going to be completely gone. I thought it was just kind of like not previewed about him or something, like so we can get some surprises or something. But
yeah, no, this one was following Brian's character.
So since Vin Diesel was in the second one, and I didn't like it, and then the third one didn't have Vin Diesel again, I was just like, screw it, I'm done with Fast and the Furious. And then the fourth movie came out, and I went and watched it, and I enjoyed it. And then the previews for 5 made things look way too outlandish. I was like, this isn't the Fast and the Furious I know and love, But I need to, I decided not too long ago, I went and I found the whole bundle of, the first 8 movies, I think, on sale for, $20 for the whole collection in HD or something. I was like, you know what, I'll buy them, and then I want to give this franchise a shot, and I haven't gotten around to it. So that's where I'm at now, is I haven't gotten around to giving it the shot that I decided to give it.
You should, because it's really good. Vin Diesel, from 4 beyond, he's the central character again. So
yeah,
The only one he's not in is Hobbs and Shaw.
Selfishly, I kind of want the movies to just stop so we can make another Riddick movie.
Right, but well, he's supposed to do like I think is one more Fast and Furious after 10, and then he said he was done. But it's really good, and both Brian and Toretto are the main characters of the franchise. But of course, Paul Walker died, so they couldn't continue with Brian as the main character. But he's even supposed in 10. I think they're supposed to do at least some referencing of him, whether they use some old footage from the old movies, or they have Paul Walker's brother come back to play some distant shots, touched up to represent Brian.
Did they not, like, kill off the character or something?
Nope. The character is still alive in the movie. He's just fully retired from the action. They brought Mia back in the last one, but Brian was referenced. That was about it. And we got to see, like, his car pull up at the end for the big family gathering, but you never seen him get out. So he was supposedly taking care of the baby. But now that Vin Diesel's kid is supposed to be older in this new movie, that would mean that Brian's kid is older too, so that Brian could be free to actually do some stuff. So they'll either kill him off in this movie or they'll reference him and use some camera tricks, but they will not have like direct leading scenes with the character, I don't believe, but we'll find out. They've got some huge star power in this series. I mean, we keep getting more and more people added. Jason Statham is now part of the franchise. The Rock was in the franchise, although he's not in 10.
And I love Jason Statham's work too. So I should have gotten back into the franchise sooner because I really like Jason Statham, and The Rock. Statham. The Rock's pretty good. I like In fact, I don't know who I like more between Vin Diesel and Jason Statham. Probably Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel, but barely.
and Michelle Rodriguez. I love Michelle Rodriguez.
Michelle Rodriguez is in it. We've got so many great actors in it because I mean we've got what's his name that plays their tech guy. I can't even think of his name right now. The rapper. We've got Helen Mirren plays Jason Statham's mother in the movie.
Really?
Yes, Helen Mirren is Jason Statham's mother.
Talk about a good actor.
Yeah, John Cena plays Vin Diesel's younger brother. We get.
Did John Cena and The Rock ever have a scene together?
I don't think so because Cena was in the movie that Rock wasn't in.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was thinking, if they were both in the same one, it would have been hilarious if they did some sort of wrestler reference to each other.
But they were in, Rock wasn't in that one. We've gotten Kurt Russell has been in as Mr. Nobody.
Kurt Russell?
Kurt Russell is in it as Mr. Nobody, a government agent. And then in the Hobbs and Shaw spin-off movie.
Idris Elba?
What? Idris Elba has been in it. But in the Hobbs and Shaw spin-off movie, they also have Ryan Reynolds as one of the handlers. Because Mr. Nobody is the handler for The Rock's character of Hobbs, and Ryan Reynolds is Jason Statham's handler.
This Fast and the Furious franchise is starting to sound like what The Expendables was intending to be.
Right. Well, and that's just it. They're supposed to be working on another Expendables movie too, and I'm wondering who they're going to bring in for that because there's still a lot of 80s, 90s action stars that they could bring in. Treat Williams would be great. brought
if they do if they do another Expendables movie, they've got to make it rated R. They ruined the third one by making it PG-13.
Yeah, Expendables needs to be rated R.
Yeah.
And if they do another Expendables, there's a couple of action heroes that they really need to bring in for the next one. They need to bring in Steven Seagal. They need to bring in Treat Williams.
No,
they need to
leave Steven Seagal out of it. Leave Steven Seagal out of it.
Well,
that guy sucks.
No, I love Steven Seagal for one thing, and for another, he is an 80s and 90s action hero.
Yeah, that part is true. He was an action hero in the 80s.
He is as iconic, at least, as Dolph Lundgren and some of the others. So he should be in there. Even if you don't like him, he should have a small part. I mean, they brought in Vin Diesel for the last one. I mean, not Vin Diesel, Van Damme for the last one. So they need to bring in Seagal for this one. It'd be nice. They're not going to be able to do it, but it'd be nice if they could bring Bruce Willis in. But with his health, it's not going to happen.
Apparently the fourth Expendables comes out later this year.
And we'll see what happens with it.
It's scheduled for September, it looks like.
Yeah. So we'll see what they do with it.
Spencer Cohen.
Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah.
That was my little brief outing. So we'll go on to your next topic.
Okay. I want to mention one thing. I mentioned it earlier. Riddick 4 is in the works. They did announce a Riddick 4 called Riddick Furia.
Riddick Furia, yes. And I'm a big fan of the Pitch Black series, which is Riddick.
Yes.
So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. Next up, you had something from Microsoft.
Yeah, this was kind of a wild announcement. Microsoft and Nintendo have signed a deal to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo consoles for 10 years, a 10-year deal. Here's what's crazy. Microsoft doesn't yet own Call of Duty. If the purchase of Activision Blizzard King goes through this year, Microsoft will then own it. But they don't own it yet. And without owning it yet, they still signed this deal, this contract, this binding contract with Nintendo to bring Call of Duty to their platforms. Which is kind of... Call of Duty's been missing from Nintendo for years. Because the hardware doesn't match up, I think, is the main reason. One thing that has me wondering about this is, I don't see the modern Call of Duty games working on the Nintendo Switch at all, except for through streaming.
Right.
I have to imagine that by the time the first Call of Duty game comes out that's under Microsoft's control that would be on a Nintendo platform has to be on the next generation Nintendo console. A post-Switch platform. Which hopefully is good news on the power front. I still want the next Nintendo to be like the Switch, where it's able to switch to handheld mode, but we can give it more power. The Steam Deck's proven we can add more power to it.
Well, might do a little bit of a throwback, because I could see them doing a Call of Duty game using a nunchuck type of controller.
I mean, the Switch controller can be used like a nunchuck controller. Because you have those small controllers on the side of the system that come off, and you can use one in each hand. Yeah.
Well, I don't play Switch, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah. So you see your hand, like you see the Switch, and you got the controls on the sides. Those come off the whole system, leaving just basically a screen behind.
So they turn into nunchucks. Yeah.
And they turn into, what you can either... It's crazy how versatile they are, because they can pair up, and one is for your left hand and one is for your right hand, and it does all the stuff a joypad
does.
The nunchuck could do. That's what I was trying to say. They're called Joy-Cons, and I'm trying to call them by their actual name instead of referencing the Wii controllers. They can do everything that those Wii controllers could do and more with high definition, relatively, like high quality rumble and stuff in them. Much better control. You can do all kinds of stuff with them.
Better response.
So they already have that functionality in the Switch, and I think that's a good. And another way you can use it is you can hand those two controller pieces to two different players and hold them sideways as a tiny horizontal controller to play games that are, compatible with like a regular, 4-face button, 2-shoulder button, analog stick style controls. It's bizarre and curious, and it works. I don't play that way much because I got giant hands and I use just the Pro pads. So it's something that they could do the controls like that even with this platform. I do hope that they do continue on with the design idea of the Switch where they get the handheld end docked and whatever. Just make it stronger. Get us some better graphics. I don't necessarily need it to be 4K. Just a little more horsepower behind it.
The technology is going up and up every year, so I could see it getting more powerful in doing that.
Yeah.
It would totally work.
I think the main reason Microsoft made this deal and pursued it in the first place is so that to help with the purchase of Activision Blizzard, because if they can show these review boards that are deciding whether or not the deal is going to be a monopoly, they show them, no, look, we're functioning like a third-party publisher, then we're going to be putting our games on Nintendo. Here's a 10-year deal.
Yeah, here's a 10-year deal.
Yeah, another console.
They're showing that they're not monopoly.
Yeah.
Right. That could very well be a way to try to skew things in their favor. I can see that. I can see Microsoft pulling a move like that.
And I mean, I'm not mad about it at all because I feel like this is a pro-consumer move.
It's pro-player. It is.
Pro-player.
It is pro-player because it'll open up the franchise for those who want it to more players to play it on the console they want to play on. Because that's the thing. The more that it's available on multiple platforms, the more players get to play it, the more people get to choose the platform they want. And that's going to be helpful. So, yeah, definitely. This is big news. And it's pretty promising. And what will happen is even if the sale doesn't go through, Activision Blizzard will probably end up going through Microsoft to honor the deal in a subcontractual fashion.
Yeah.
Just to keep the deal going.
Something else that's interesting about this is it's not exclusively Call of Duty for this deal. At least not from what they've revealed to the public. Brad Smith, the president of Microsoft, Brad Smith tweeted about this. This is how they announced this. He tweeted saying, "We've now signed a binding 10-year contract to bring Xbox games to Nintendo's gamers. This is just part of our commitment to bring Xbox games and Activision titles like Call of Duty to more players on more platforms." And then, that was the text he shared, and then the block of text that was put out as, a public announcement from both Microsoft and Nintendo having both of their logos on it, which is so wild to see. This is a strange time for gamers, right?
Yeah, you can see, exclusive Xbox titles suddenly showing up on Nintendo, Halo,
Gears of War, Fable. Fable would be a perfect fit for Nintendo
Switch.
Fable would
fit Nintendo so well. Fable would be great, and there's a lot of people that like Fable. I don't even like Xbox, but the few times I've played on an Xbox console, it's been Fable, because Fable is a pretty good game.
So I'll read what it says here. It says, Microsoft and Nintendo have now negotiated and signed a binding 10-year legal agreement to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo players the same day as Xbox with full feature and content parity. So they can experience Call of Duty just as Xbox and PlayStation gamers enjoy Call of Duty. We are committed to providing long-term equal access to Call of Duty to other gaming platforms, bringing more choice to more players and more competition to the gaming market. So the blurb that's from the companies of Microsoft and Nintendo is really just talking about Call of Duty, but the president of Microsoft says Xbox games, and then says including or bringing games like Call of Duty to more platforms.
Right.
So
it's an exclusivity thing. I mean, it's an inclusivity thing.
Yeah.
It is including. Not exclusivity. It's inclusivity. They're allowing more consoles to provide more games to more players. And that can be nothing but good for the gaming community.
Yeah.
And like you said, it would be good PR for Microsoft as far as getting the purchase past the naysayers. Because there's a lot of naysayers out there that want to stop the building of the monopoly, and so that's why that thing has not gone through yet. Even though Microsoft's got buckets of money to throw at it, it's not just about money.
You know what I'm hoping to see here is I'm hoping that they bring. I'm just speculating, but I'm just kind of like looking at what we have happening here. I'm hoping that this leads to Game Pass on Switch.
Yeah, you never know. Switch having access to the Game Pass games would be game-breaking.
Yeah.
There would be a lot of people that would go for that, and Game Pass would...
I don't know if Nintendo would go for that. I know Microsoft would. I don't know if Nintendo would go for that.
I know PlayStation would.
Yeah, PlayStation might.
Go for it.
Like, Phil Spencer has been very big about he wants to get Game Pass on as many devices as possible. And I believe him in that. I think he would. I think he'd be down for putting Game Pass on PlayStation and on Nintendo, and on anything on Steam Deck, any piece of hardware that you could put Game Pass on. I think Phil Spencer would be happy to put it there. It'd be a matter of negotiating the costs and the details like that.
Subscription services are what's keeping a lot of these media empires going. I mean, not to get off topic, but look at the media wars with the streaming services. They're all scrambling to try to make it more profitable again because their money they're becoming money sinks, and so they need more and more subscribers. They need more and more people to actually buy into it. I mean, even Disney Plus is talking about selling off some of their licensed products to other streams. You could suddenly be able to see WandaVision on Netflix, or I mean, that's huge. Because that exclusive content was Disney Plus's bread and butter, but Disney Plus is losing money, Netflix is losing money, HBO Max, Discovery is losing money, Paramount Plus is losing money. They're all, it's the new way, but they're losing money because of the competition and stuff. And that's where, like, I'm in agreement with Angel that it's a good thing that it looks like some of them are combining together and making fewer better choices instead of thousands of choices out there.
Yeah, that's kind of Netflix used to be extremely profitable.
Oh, they were a juggernaut.
They were a juggernaut. But now there's so many of them out there. There's so many streaming services. Almost every major publisher, I think, of film and television has their own streaming app these days, and
they have
it's annoying.
Contract with one of them, yeah.
It's annoying to have to search for the one you want. It's like today, Allie asked me what service has Megamind on it. I was like, shoot, I don't know. Maybe Netflix, maybe Hulu.
HBO Max, I believe.
Maybe. I mean, a quick Google search found it only available for purchase on Amazon Prime and Vudu and stuff. We didn't find anywhere to actually stream.
Last I saw it was, I think, on HBO.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong.
Also I saw that HBO Max is changing over to, what was it called? Warner Brothers TV, WBTV?
Yeah, they're going to be. That'll be their new name, and
I hope that they merge the CW content onto that platform.
well, no, that's going to be separate because it's owned by Nexstar.
Oh yeah, they
So,
sold the CW, didn't they?
yeah, so they pretty much said that the CW wouldn't. But that doesn't mean that some of the content that was originally on CW won't show up on HBO Max.
Yeah, or the WBTV. Yeah, I guess that's the thing. I'm hoping that all of the Warner Brothers content that's being going out on CW gets moved over to this WBTV along with the HBO Max. That way I can stop using CW app, because the CW app is trash.
Well, yeah, but at least it's free.
Yeah, it's free, but it's still trash. If it didn't have...
does not have Megamind.
Okay.
Let me see. It might be on.
So yeah, it's been, man, it's a weird time, because we've got PlayStation games being released on Xbox. We've got Xbox games coming out on Nintendo. I mean, I guess the next step, I think the only thing that's not happening is Nintendo and PlayStation having some kind of crossing over. When do you think we're going to see The Last of Us on Nintendo Switch? Man, that one might be a little too much. But, and I wonder, is there going to be any return? Like, I don't think this is going to happen, but, like, there's no talk about bringing Nintendo to Xbox platforms. So, no Mario on Xbox. It looks like it's a one-way deal. Xbox games going to Nintendo, but not the other way around. Who owns Cuphead? Oh, it's Xbox. Well, it started on Xbox at least. Cuphead originally released on the Xbox, that's why I own it on there. Anyway.
Looks like you might be able to watch it on Prime.
It's only if you pay $4 to rent it.
Okay.
Yeah, we tried. We tried Prime. Allie thought she saw it on there. So yeah, anyway, more players, more platforms, says Microsoft. It's cool. It's cool. Down here in the article, it says Call of Duty has not been available on Nintendo since 2013's Call of Duty Ghosts for Nintendo Wii U. It's been 10 years. It has been a decade since Call of Duty has been on Nintendo. And you know how many Call of Duty games they've made in that last decade?
Right.
Like 14. I don't know the actual number, but they put out a minimum of a game every year. Sometimes they put out 2 games in the same year. Hell, I think in 2022, Call of Duty was the #1 and #2 bestseller.
Yep. Megamind is not available on any streaming service that I could find.
Yeah, that was the same thing we came up with.
Yeah, and I even checked Peacock and Paramount Plus and all those. I mean, I didn't check Pluto or Tubi, but I would assume if it's not available on those, it's probably not available. And it was just last month, because I used to see it advertised on. I thought it was HBO. So it's been recently pulled. There's just,
yeah,
and that's the thing is, these things are being shuffled around like crazy right now. The Harry Potter movies just moved from HBO Max to, I think those are on Paramount Plus right now, or Peacock. They're on one of those two.
Why? Warner Brothers owns them.
Yeah, but they're sub-licensing them to make money because they need funds. And the thing is, But the other systems that are buying the sublicense, they need funds. So I don't get it. All they're doing is they're trying to diversify their catalog to try to get more people.
It sounds like that classic steal from Peter to pay Paul.
It is. It's very much a rob from Peter to pay Paul kind of philosophy.
It's just the turtle game or whatever they call it with the cards.
Shell game.
Shell game. That's the word.
It is. It's
a shell game.
And where are you going to find it? Now, on the positive side of things, talking about new streaming contracts and renewals and stuff, it has been confirmed that The Sandman has been renewed for a second season.
Has it? Yes.
Good Omen has been renewed for another season.
What's that? What was that last one? Good. Oh, good. Yes.
So we get Sandman, we get Good Omens.
I was late to the party with Good Omens. I was really late to the party, but when I finally watched it, I could not stop watching it. I watched the whole thing in 3 days.
I'm telling you, and that's the thing about Neil Gaiman's stuff. When his stuff gets converted, you want to binge it. And so both of those Neil Gaiman properties getting renewals is great. Now it'll be interesting to see Good Omens without Terry Pratchett as the co-writer, because of course Pratchett passed away. But as Neil Gaiman had said, him and Terry had talked about making a sequel, and so they at least have some ideas already in the works that they'll be able to put in. So that'll be interesting to see. I am personally looking forward to it because I love both of those series.
I don't remember if it was an official announcement of it being approved or if it was just them trying to get approved. But I remember some time ago something online about some news came out about a second season for the show. And someone tweeted, what are they going to do? Just they're like the first season already covered the only book. What are they going to do? Just make some stuff up for this one?
Yeah,
and Neil Gaiman himself responded to that tweet going, that's what I did the first time.
Right. That's how you make the book. Make some shit up.
Yeah. That's what writing is all about, making shit up.
And there's some great actors and stuff that are signed on to these projects. I mean, in The Sandman, if you recall, Patton Oswalt was the Raven. We had David Tennant did a voice in the 11th episode. The two-parter extra episode had David Tennant and Michael Sheen from Good Omens stepping in to do voices for that episode. Speaking of voices and for other things coming into media, just to talk on media again, this is the year of Doctor Who. It's the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who this year, and they're doing a big three-parter in November to celebrate that. And Neil Patrick Harris is playing one of the bad guys in the three-parter. So that's going to be interesting. But in honor of the 60th anniversary, they just announced that the radio plays, the audio plays for Doctor Who are going to start an 8-episode audio play this year, and it's going to start in May. And for that audio play, they're bringing back a ton of original actors from the Doctor Who franchise. And I'm talking, for one thing, the concept of the audio play that they're talking about is it's during the Time Wars, and the Doctor wakes up in a field hospital for the Gallifreyans, and he starts to glow, and you think, okay, he's getting ready to regenerate. But instead of regenerating, he degenerates to his older incarnation. So he starts degenerating back through his various lives. And so they're bringing somebody back to voice all of those old lives. If the actor's still alive, it's the original actor. If not, it's one of the voice actors that played them in the audio plays after the actor died. But Georgia Tennant, David Tennant's wife, who played the daughter of the Doctor, is going to be back for it. The girl who played Missy, the female master character, is going to be back for it. There are so many people. Tom Baker, the iconic Fourth Doctor, is going to be back for it. So there's so much that's going to be happening. The girl Christina Sladen, who didn't play, Christina Sladen played Sarah Jane, the companion. She's dead. Her daughter is coming in to voice her mom's character. So her daughter is coming in and stepping in to play for her mother in the audio. So it's going to be an epic audio event. Just to touch on some of the stuff that's happening. Media is huge, and nerds rule media right now. We are taking over all of the media.
In the States, anyway, I guess. Here's, did you hear, what was that service? I think it was Disney Plus. Might have been someone else. I think, it was Disney Plus. Disney Plus lost a couple million subscribers recently, right?
Well, they lost one of their, I think it was their Chinese distributors.
It was, basically they lost the rights to broadcast or to put on their service cricket, the sport, cricket. And so many people in Asia, different parts of Asia, unsubscribed because of the loss of cricket, that even with more people in like Europe and England, or Europe and America and everything signing up, they still had a net loss of over 2 million subscribers.
Well, look at the population of China.
Yeah. And it's a kind of a brief reminder that as big as our favorite movies are doing in the blockbuster, right, in the theaters, like our movies are the biggest money makers in theaters, but that's still kind of small potatoes to sports in some ways, globally speaking.
Well, globally, especially certain countries, there are certain sports that are massive. Like, we don't think of it in the U.S. hardly at all because it's not a big one in the U.S. But soccer, European football, soccer is huge around the world. And other countries especially, they follow soccer like...
I mean, just cricket, if I remember right, the company who bought the rights for cricket paid like $3 billion for it. Something along those lines.
For the broadcast rights, yeah.
Yeah, for the broadcast rights to cricket.
Yes, cricket is big in a lot of countries.
Yeah,
Soccer is the single biggest sport outside of the U.S. And, they go insane for soccer elsewhere. And coincidentally, it's weird, but here in America, soccer is not big at all. But that's because American football is the thing. I personally don't even watch sports ball. But I got drawn in about the Super Bowl. I didn't watch it, but I was at least excited when I found out at the fourth quarter that they went from a tied game to just barely squeaking by with a win for the Kansas City Chiefs. That was a edge of your seat kind of game for a lot of people. I don't get sports ball. I think sports is for doing, not watching. I would rather watch a chess tournament, and that's a boring thing to watch.
Yeah, I love watching things with story and things like that, but I don't care for watching. Like, I don't watch sports. I don't usually watch gameplay footage on things unless I'm trying to figure out something that I don't know how to do, or I want to see someone doing a speed run where they beat a game in 10 minutes that took me 30 hours.
Right.
Occasionally I'll watch something like that just to...
Challenges.
But that's few and far between,
Right. We're more producers of that than I would rather stream myself playing it than watch somebody else play it.
Same here.
Same way. Because just like sports, we see games as something you do, not something you watch.
Right.
We want to do it. We want to be actively involved.
Yeah. My exception to the rule was, and it's not so much these days, but my exception to the rule was wrestling, and it was because there was a story behind wrestling.
There's theatricality in wrestling. Wrestling is
it's the theatrics that got me, you know. That was the main thing that got me.
Even as a kid, I watched Glorious Ladies of Wrestling, and I watched the WWE as a kid, and I'm not even into sports and stuff, but I like to watch the theater that they put behind things like the Hulk Hogan's team versus Rowdy Piper's team and all of that.
I still remember the rivalry between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kurt Angle being like one of the best things I ever watched in sports entertainment.
Right, and that's the thing. And just like, for instance, if I was going to watch any basketball at all, I watch the Harlem Globetrotters because it's a show.
Yeah.
The Harlem Globetrotters is a show. It's not sporting.
That'd be fun. It'd be fun. That seems like it'd be a fun show to watch.
It is. It's a fun show to watch because they're doing all kinds of trick shots and they're being all like clowns on the field or the court and whatever. That's why I watch and I'll watch some sports related movies. Like I watch A League of Their Own, and I watch The Replacements, and I watch Remember the Titans. I watch the movies because there's a story behind it. We
are the Titans. Mighty Titans.
Yeah, and there's a story behind it is why I watch it.
Don't judge my terrible singing, chat. I know I'm a bad singer.
But we go to, you're like me. We go to our media for entertainment. We do not want to just watch the news. We don't just want to watch sport. If we watch news, we're watching gaming news. We're watching movie news.
Yeah, I mean, if people are watching sports, they're watching it for entertainment, and it's just not.
It's just not what doesn't float our boat.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I play video games, but I don't watch League of Legends contests, and some people do. What gets me is when someone who watches football judges someone else for watching League of Legends, and I'm like, you do the same exact thing.
Yeah, you watch football.
You two are performing the exact same activity. It's just a different sporting event you're watching.
Yeah, one's watching a sport, the other's watching an e-sport. I mean, and that's the thing. Esports is overrunning in the U.S. especially. Esports is starting to overshadow regular sport. Regular sports is having to get more and more extreme to say. I just heard they recently approved the XFL, which is the Extreme Football League, because they got to get more and more extreme to keep people's attention, because more and more people are moving to watching like esports and watching live streams of people playing Dungeons and Dragons, and then we're watching.
As a fan of Lord of the Rings and D&D and all that, imagine my disappointment when I learned what fantasy football was.
Yeah, I know. Fantasy football, I always thought if they were going to make it fantasy football, put dragons on the field, God damn it.
Yeah. Okay, I think we may have trailed off on the far enough off topic at this point. Did you have another story you wanted to get to before we talked about The Flash and Quantumania?
No, actually, we're going right into... I did want to do From the Vault.
Okay.
The From the Vault this week is relatively new. It's not as old as some of them. And I may have talked about this before. It's Grimm. If you've ever watched the Grimm TV series, it's on Peacock. So for those of you who have Peacock, you can watch it. It tells a story. It's one of those Monster Hunter episode of the week kind of shows. The basic background of the story: the main character Nick is one of the last descendants of a long line of people which were in the Grimm family which is where the Grimm fairy tales came from. And their family has the unique ability to see the monsters. Because most of them pass as human most of the time. But the Grimms can see them and their monstrous visages, even though they're hiding them from the rest of humanity. And so it's the Grimm's job to hunt the monsters. And Nick is actually a homicide detective who finds out that he's a Grimm from his aunt. And then he goes out, but he only wants to stop the monsters that are actually being monstrous. Some of them are just minding their own business, living in society, doing stuff, and he's having to convince them in the monster society that he is not out to get them. He's only out to get the ones that are committing crimes, the ones that are killing people, the ones that are hunting each other. And so he goes out and he's got a partner that's a detective, and pretty early in the series he reveals that he's a Grimm to his partner. And then they have another sidekick called Monroe, who's a Blutbad, which is the German term for werewolf. They use a lot of German terms in Grimm because...
I think that, if I remember correctly, I believe the Grimm brothers fairy tales originated from the German culture originally, right?
I was about to make that point, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's very, it's the earliest Grimm fairy tales are from Germanic origin. And so using the German terms for most of the creatures in Grimm kind of ties back into that. And it's a great show. It's got like 5 seasons.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. And the portrayals of the characters, like, for instance, witches in Grimm are actually a type of beast called a hexen beast. And, they're the witches and the warlocks. The male hexen beast are the warlocks, and the female hexen beasts are the witches, and they have like pseudo magic powers. Then you have other various creatures. The Blutbogs show up a lot. The werewolves, because of Monroe being in every episode. He's like his monster expert, since his aunt quickly leaves the show. But he's the one that he goes to. And Monroe is a werewolf who is basically the werewolf version of a vegetarian. He doesn't go out and eat live prey. He's just he's a watch and clock fixer is what he does, and he's got a very eclectic taste in other things. He likes classical music. He plays a classical instrument. I think it was the cello. He does other things of those things. He's very much an artsy kind of guy. And you look at him, and he doesn't look like that kind of guy either. So it's completely different. And the guy that plays Monroe is just an excellent actor. I think he's fantastic. So I recommend this show. It's really a good show to watch. And if you've got Peacock, go and stream it on Peacock. It's a great one to see. The other thing I was watching this week that I was going to kind of recommend is a funny, campy superhero show by Roger Corman called Black Scorpion. If you've not seen it, it's one of those with a supercar and a martial arts fighting female superhero in black spandex. Very much an 80s, 90s superhero campy kind of show.
Black Scorpion?
Black Scorpion. And you can find it on Tubi and Freevee. So you can find it on one of the free services. You can find all the seasons of it. It's very campy. But if you like campy superhero kind of series, I wanted to go take us back this week to something like Knight Rider, but I couldn't find Knight Rider on any free service. You had to buy it, its episodes. right now. Nobody is streaming Knight Rider for free.
So Black Scorpion aired on the Sci-Fi Channel in 2001.
Yes, but it's got that 80s, 90s campy feel to it, even though it's a 2001 show. And it's a Roger Corman, so that kind of tells you.
This cover art I'm seeing, this like poster ad thing I'm finding. I think this is the cover art for the DVD collection. Yeah. Kind of makes me think of the old Halle Berry Catwoman movie, but with less budget for the editing.
It's better than Catwoman, I'll say that.
Okay.
It's closer to, if you ever saw the old Mantis TV show or Nightman. Nightman would be another one that would be in the same kind of bent as this. Very campy. She's a police detective by day, superhero vigilante by night. She has a tech guy named Argyle who helps her build the transformation thing for her suit and her car. The car's got like a shield system that makes it bulletproof, and it's got a built-in magnet that'll draw all the guns and stuff away from the bad guys in very classic 80s, 90s campy superhero fashion. The bad guys are like a cyborg guy called I can't remember his character's name, but he's got a gun hand. And then there's another one called Shockwave or whatever.
There's a Specs and Slugger, a pair of incompetent cops. Detective Steve Rafferty, Argyle Sims, Tinder Lovin', Veronica,
Argyle's girlfriend,
Arthur Artie Worth, Dr. Phineas Phoenix, and Captain Henry Strickland.
Yeah, that's the core cast. But it's great. Just go see it. So either one of those two would be my From the Vault. I'm not doing a Kickstarter this week because I could not find one that had more than like 8 days left on it, and I like to give us at least 14 days to back it. And
Adam West played as a recurring villain on this show.
Yeah.
Called Breathtaker.
Yeah, there were a few different ones that Adam West, during that time period, Adam West cameoed on a few of these campy shows. Anyway, that was it for this week as far as that goes. We're going to go into The Flash. I really don't want to talk about The Last of Us without Angel, though, because I think that one's one that Angel doesn't get into The Flash. So we'll skip over The Last of Us without Angel.
Let's do The Flash last since it's a spoiler conversation, and do Quantum Mania since it's a non-spoiler chat.
Yeah, and Quantum Mania is the thing. So let me bring up my Quantum Mania poster. Quantum Mania. Oh my God. First of all, for those naysayers out there that are telling you it's not a good movie, that it's not going to be a good movie, they're wrong. It's a great movie. I loved it. The action starts from almost the very beginning of the movie. There's a little bit of not quite action at the very beginning, which you've seen in the commercials when he's walking down the street, kind of narrating, and then goes up and then he comes into the deli. He's like, "Thank you, Spider-Man."
Yeah.
You see that in the commercials, so that's not any spoiler. And that's kind of how the movie begins, and it's very good. And it turns out that he's narrating.
I want to make a comment about the bad rap it's got. Like some other movies, this was a movie that scores poorly with critics, but scores well with audiences.
Yes.
Rotten Tomatoes shows it having a 48% by critics, but an 84% with audiences.
Yes.
So, movie snobs don't like it.
But
superhero fans do.
Yeah, the average moviegoer actually does like it. So take that with what you will. If you're one of those that agrees with Ebert most of the time, you may not like this movie. On the other hand, if you're like me and Lurch, you're going to go to this movie and you're going to come out saying, "I want to see that again."
Yeah. It's my favorite Ant-Man movie, and I like the other Ant-Man movies.
Yeah, it's really good. In fact, a couple of commentators online in the nerd community were saying that this is a proof that Marvel actually did not make a mistake when they went away from the old director of Ant-Man and switched directors, because the new guy has now done 3 Ant-Man movies, and they've gotten better with each one. I think.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the original director that they were going to do for the Ant-Man movie, the original movie that they had pinned, the original writer and director, would have been a standalone. It would not have fit into the overall overarching Marvel Cinematic Universe. It would not have worked with the bigger universe because it would have been a standalone. This works better in Marvel because Marvel is a cinematic universe with ongoing stories.
Yeah.
And so this is great. Not to give away spoilers, but I will say that inner monologue that you see in the commercial is because he's reading from a book that he wrote. Scott Lang wrote a book, something like Remember the Little Guy or something like that.
Yeah.
Is the name of the book, which is, I think, a catchy title for somebody who could.
I think it was Look Out for the Little Guy or something like that.
Remember the Little Guy or something like that. But it's catchy because of the fact that it references the little guy.
Yeah.
Bill Murray, of course, we've heard rumors, and yes, he is in the movie.
Well, he was in the trailer briefly.
Yeah.
He was in one of the trailers really briefly.
He's got a small part, but he's interesting in it. I don't think there's enough of him, but I don't want to go into spoilers.
He did a great performance.
He did
a good job with his role.
For what they gave him, I just don't know if they gave him enough.
So, did you, while watching this movie, I got a question for you. While watching this movie, did you sometimes get kind of a Star Wars vibe from it?
I did get a little Star Wars out of it.
Yeah.
It was very almost space operatic. Very much in the bent of classic Star Trek. You mean Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
What did I say?
I think you said Star Trek, but that's okay.
I
know what you meant. Star Wars. Yes, it was very much the old original George Lucas first trilogy Star Wars kind of feel to it. With
a lot of CG.
Oh yeah,
for the
CG was
Quantum Realm.
Amazing. The visuals for the Quantum Realm were fantastic. Majors as Kang was superlative.
Oh God, okay. So my introduction to this actor, I believe, was Loki season finale.
I cannot think of anything else I've seen him in other than Loki. Allison was like, "Where have I seen him?" And she was going to look it up. I don't know if she ever did. But Jonathan Majors, for the most part, I can only really think of him from Loki season 1. And
I haven't watched it yet, but he was in Lovecraft Country, which is, I think,
did see Lovecraft Country, some of it,
which I think is the main thing he got known for. I think that was kind of his big moment, but he had a major role in that, from my understanding, and he's going to be in the new Creed movie, Creed 3.
Yeah, he must be the one opposite Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
He's the other actor. But Lovecraft Country and Creed would not be the ones that Allison would know him from, because she's never watched, as far as I know, Lovecraft Country or Creed 1 or 2. But anyway, yeah, he does such a great job. And without giving details, because I don't want to spoil it this week, the post-credit scenes are definitely worth it. There are 2 of them, so wait for both of them when you go to the theater. And without giving details, I will say that they broke ground. They made another first for Marvel with one of the post-credit scenes because it directly references scenes from season 2 of Loki. So watch for that. Without giving you the details of exactly what happens, we'll do spoilers next week or the week after, give you guys a little bit of a chance to get out and watch the movie. But as usual, Paul Rudd and Evangelina Lilly brought their A game to the movie. The recasting of Cassie, I think, was fine. There was nothing wrong with that. A lot of people were up in arms because they recast Paul Rudd's daughter, but I think that the actress they got playing her did a really good job as Cassie.
Yeah.
Michelle Pfeiffer and Kurt Douglas did.
Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas. I get them all. Those Kurtz and Michaels all blend together after a while.
I do want to bring back Jonathan Majors briefly because Jonathan Majors he's playing Kang, which is basically who he played. He's playing a variant of the character he played in Loki season 1, but his performance in this is wildly different. It's like he played a very kind of goofy, eccentric.
Is different, and
yeah,
that's the thing is, if you've read the comics, you know that the different versions of Kang, although they're all megalomaniacal, they're all very different characters, which is why, from the comic book, the Council of Kang was so important. And, okay, I don't want to go into spoiler territory, so I'm not going to go into this. I'm not going to go further into this, but I will say that every iteration of Kang that Jonathan Majors plays is distinct. They are different iterations. He Who Remains from Loki season 1 is different from Kang the Conqueror from Quantumania.
Here's some. I feel like this is a spoiler-free kind of notion. Just like down to the body language and the facial expressions, right? The one we got in Loki season 1, the finale. He was very animated, right?
But very active.
He was very he used a lot of movement, a lot of motion, and in this King, every action, every movement he makes is very deliberate. There's not a wasted muscle from King.
Not a wasted twitch. No, he has economy of motion down. He's very, very precise and very direct. Where, like you said, in Loki, he was very he was animated and sarcastic and
a little
carefree almost.
Yeah, it was wild. He managed to be. Yeah, I saw something recently that pointed out that in Loki he did the condescending Willy Wonka pose for a couple seconds.
Yes, exactly. Very much a know-it-all, overly intuitive. Yeah, I know what's going to happen kind of guy.
Yeah.
Which fits the character of He Who Remains.
Yeah, this King is still a very know-it-all type.
Very cocky.
But the way he gets that across is much more controlled.
More controlled, more militaristic, more dictatorial. More, and that's King the Conqueror. He's a conqueror. So it fits. Where in Loki, he's trying to convince the Lokis to do it his way because it can be better for everybody.
And so it's a very different personality, even though they have certain core elements that are...
in this, he's not trying to convince anybody. He's ordering people around. He's like, you do this. It's my way or the highway.
So I think that's about all we can say without getting too spoilery.
Yeah, and it's such a spoilery kind of thing. So we will see you next week or the week after. We like to give ourselves a little bit of leeway, and with health going up and down with different people's health, like COVID in my house. There's no guarantee we'll do a show next week. We called a show off a couple of weeks ago. So
Yeah.
it may not be next week. It might be the week after, but we'll get back to that. And that's also when we'll touch on the next couple episodes of The Last of Us. But I do want to talk, at least briefly, and this is going to be spoiler heavy, on The Flash.
This is the spoiler segment.
Yes, so if you have not watched The Flash this last week, episode 2 or episode 1, because we might refer back to it, then this is the time to stop it, go watch those, come back, look this up on YouTube. Within a week or so, I haven't put last week's up yet, but within a week, give or take, week to 10 days, I usually have them up on YouTube, and you can find them, and then you can watch and hear our comments on it. But go watch The Flash. This is the final season of The Flash for Grant Gustin and Pennebaker and all of the ones we love.
Yeah.
There. So anyway, let's bring up that poster. We are starting to see more of the Rogues Gallery. And that seems to be a major theme this season. We keep getting duplicates of old villains played by new individuals.
Yeah.
We're getting new versions. We got a new Captain Boomerang in the last one. In this one, we got a new violinist.
Yeah, new fiddler.
A new fiddler.
Yeah. I hope this pays off well. Otherwise, it just comes off lazy and cheap.
And it's showing more and more from the near-end scenes that it's Red Death that's pulling the strings, which, as we know from a lot of the preview kind of information, is going to be a Batwoman version of Red Death. Now, if you read the comic books, like we mentioned last week, Red Death was an alternate universe version of Batman, not Batwoman, but this Batman has the Speed Force. So it's a Batman-Flash combo. In this case, it's a Batwoman-Flash combo that we're going to see.
Yeah.
So later on in the season...
And that's because we can't see Batman on camera in a TV show for...
Contract
reasons,
yeah.
By the will of God.
Yeah, it's a lot of contract reasons is like...
I swear, like whatever creative, let's just imagine God comes down to Earth and is like, put Batman on TV, and they'll still say no.
Yeah, they have done their best to not do Batman on TV. In fact, that's part of the reason when the Arrowverse launched, it launched with Green Arrow as the primary character. If you look at the character of Green Arrow from the Arrowverse, a lot of that was a Batman character.
We've talked about this a number of times. Green Arrow in the Arrowverse is just a green Batman.
Yeah, he's a different flavor of Batman. Because they couldn't get the rights to do Batman on TV. And they still haven't. We've kind of touched on Batman, but we've never actually portrayed Batman on TV since, since the Adam West era.
I was going to say, I don't know if we have since the West era.
I don't think he's not on TV. He's been in movies.
Yeah, he might get a brief, he had a brief appearance in, I think, the last episode of Birds of Prey, but he didn't do anything but just, talk on the phone to Alfred in his costume in a cave with a fireplace for some reason. Even though he hasn't been active as Batman in years. And then he put on the suit for the very last shot of Gotham.
And in Crisis, we had a Bruce Wayne as played by
Kevin Conroy.
Kevin Conroy, but he wasn't dressed up in the bat suit. He wasn't doing Batman things. He was retired,
Yeah.
So.
And he tried to murder somebody.
Yeah, he was very dark. It was a different alternative universe Batman. So Batman they have been very careful not to bring Batman to the small screen since Adam West era, which was as you know, very Mod Squad hippie kind of
Yeah.
campy
Like,
Batman.
there might be something we're forgetting, but I can't think of it. Anyway,
I'm
so The
looking
Flash
forward to
episode.
Batman making it to the small screen, which should happen when they do the Penguin miniseries and the Arkham miniseries that are still supposed to be in the works.
Yeah.
Back
So
to
this
the
episode
Flash.
of The Flash,
Yeah.
Snow.
Oh, as now a new character,
Yeah, she's a third Snow sister.
which is a blank slate, and very reminiscent. Even Pennebaker said in an interview that the character is very reminiscent of her character from Sky High, Layla. If you watch the Sky High movie, Pennebaker, kind of her first real movie outing, she was in Sky High, and she played a pacifist whose power was to make plants grow. And so she was very in touch with nature. And this version of Snow is very in tune with nature and people's feelings and stuff. She's very touchy-feely.
Yeah.
She's definitely not Frost. She's closer to Caitlin than Frost when it comes to that. But Frost had, her contact with the elements with cold, and Pennebaker's Caitlin was a physician, so she acted a little bit as not only the doctor, but in a little ways the psychologist of the group. And so in that way she was in touch with people's feelings. But this one is very in touch with feelings. She's very touchy-feely. So we're in a whole new...
And I'm pretty sure... So, like, it was raining through the whole episode, or most of the episode, and I am quite confident that the reason it was raining was because Snow was sad.
Yeah, I'm feeling she's gonna manifest.
And then at the end of the episode, she was happy and the sun came out.
Yeah, I think she's gonna manifest nature powers different from Frost's powers.
Yeah.
I think she's going to end up being more of a nature elementalist character than Frost was.
I hope this works well. I hope this works out. I feel like it's kind of a mistake to introduce her this late, this new Snow, this late into the series.
From what Pennebaker was saying in another interview I watched, this was always the plan for season 9. But originally, the showrunners were hoping to go into 9 and 10 exploring this character. But then they were told that the show was canceled, and season 9 was only going to get 13 episodes. So they now are kind of rushing through this last character with only, basically 12 episodes to explore because she wasn't even in the first episode. So we get 12 episodes of this new, I don't remember what the name of the new character was. It's like Kiori or something like that.
Yeah, something weird like that.
It's like Kiori, I think it's Khiore or something like that.
Yeah.
But she's going to be an interesting new character. Of course, obviously, Frost's boyfriend, he's all pissed because she didn't bring back Frost. And that's the theme of this episode is they find out that they put her in the chamber, and out came this blank slate, and they were going to try to input the memory engrams of Frost and Caitlin in to bring both Frost and Caitlin back, but then it becomes a quandary of what's going to happen, and ultimately they end up putting it to the new Frost to let her decide, which everybody else is okay with, but obviously Frost's boyfriend is not because he wants Frost back. But it's important to let her have agency, and that's one of the things that the Flash has always tried to stand for, is everybody making their own choices and being their own people. And so they re-upped on that and let her become herself. So she's going to be a new character going forward, and we're not going to have either Caitlin or Frost going forward, which is in some ways going to hurt the team because now we don't have a physician on the team because she was always the medic. Caitlin was their medic. But I think that the nature powers of Kiori are going to possibly manifest as maybe healing to compensate.
Well, I think, I could be mistaken, I think that Hartley guy also knows a bit about medicine, doesn't he?
Well,
So he might...
Hartley...
I know his expertise is sonic technology.
Well, I think he's going to be a regular.
I think he is. I think he's going to become a regular Team Flash member.
Hartley?
He does in the comics. He's in the comics, he's a rogue turned hero,
right?
Who joins Team Flash, and I think they are replicating that here on the show.
I don't know. With only 12 episodes to bring him in.
I mean, they introduced a whole new Snow Sister, so
we'll have to see because he wasn't in any announcement of a new cast member. But
I'm not sure how the pronunciation is. It's like Keon, Keion.
Keon, yeah, that sounds right. But Keon, I think that Keon might get some healing powers with her nature abilities.
Yeah.
There's a chance. She's definitely, I agree with you, she's got an effect on the weather. She's not exactly Weather Wizard or one of them, but she's got an effect. She's in tune with nature, and nature's in tune with her. And so there's going to be some effects. Cecile, psychic abilities are going off the chart. And they're slowly talking about Joe leaving because we knew Joe was only going to be cameoing in the first couple of episodes because he's going to another series. The actor is going to another series, and so he's not going to be a series regular this final 13 episodes. He's only supposed to be in like the first 3 episodes, I think.
Yeah, so, that makes sense.
So he's only got like one or two more episodes to go.
And we see him trying to talk his wife into moving with him out of Central City.
Because he don't want to see her in danger. But Cecile is supposed to stay as a series regular, which means they're either going to go for a distance relationship or they're going to break up.
Only Cisco was around with his teleporting technology, and he could just vibe with her back and forth when they needed her.
Well, Cisco is supposed to be back at some point during the season, but I only think it's for one episode.
I wouldn't expect it more than an episode or two.
One or two episodes. We're supposed to get a few different cameos this season because Oliver Queen is supposed to be back. We're supposed to get both the Red Death Batwoman and Batwoman, so 2 versions of her are going to be in.
Yeah.
We're supposed to get a few other characters going forward before we're all said and done. There's talk about Wally West being back. There's talk about Nora showing up again, which, of course, last season, Nora and her brother were series regulars because they spend a lot of episodes with Nora and her brother. But Nora is supposed to be in this season at least in a couple of episodes. There's only 13 episodes to play with, and I bemoan that because I think they could have at least given us a full season. Berlanti, though, even though he signed a new deal with Warner Brothers, most of what he's going to be working on is not going to be DC, from what I understand.
Yeah, me too. I don't remember exactly what it is.
He's supposed to be working on the new Green Lantern, but that's the only DC project he's really supposed to be working on going forward. I mean, he's involved with Gotham Knights, and he's involved with Superman and Lois, but he's pulling away from the DC side of things, and the new projects he's going to be working on are not supposed to be in the DC universe so much. So I don't know what's going to happen. And that's a shame because I think Berlanti's production company him and Schlechter and them have really brought a great view of the DC universe, much more successful than the cinematic universe when it comes to portraying these classic DC characters. I mean, Doom Patrol, Titans, Stargirl, all of these shows. Legends of Tomorrow was amazing. Arrow, Flash, Supergirl. They've all been great things. Black Lightning was even good. They've all done really good adaptations of these characters. There's even talk about it getting a Black Lightning cameo in these 13 episodes. And they are supposed to finalize the plot threads that were left dangling in Legend of Tomorrow. So it's supposed to finish the Booster Gold Legend of Tomorrow storyline.
It sounds like they might be reaching too far with 13 episodes.
I know. That seems like a lot to squeeze into 13 episodes.
Yeah.
But they're supposed to be doing it. I think they might have bit off more than they can chew.
Yeah. We've only got a couple of minutes left. I want to say episode 1 of this season, I really liked. The wedding.
Day, yeah.
Yeah, the Groundhog Day episode. I had a good time with that one. I did not like this episode.
I thought this episode didn't have enough meat to it. It was too perspective and not enough action. And
it meandered across, like, it had two different plots that both meandered, I feel like, really sloppily with just, like, a really thread plot that just kind of plotted for a long time.
And I'm sorry, the Fiddler is just not an interesting villain.
Yeah. So, like, the Fiddler attacks Hartley, and then no one gives a fuck about her except for Hartley. Hartley's the only one who's concerned about the Fiddler.
They're so busy with the new Snow Sister that they just let the Fiddler slide. They're like, oh yeah, okay, Hartley. Well, you stay here and you'll be safe.
Yeah.
And Hartley's like, no, I'm going to go get her. She's like attacking my club and my friends, and I'm.
Yeah, and like I get, you know, that they have something on their plate they got to deal with. They got this not Caitlin
but they
woman.
Have extra stuff on their plate.
Yeah, and you know, when you have a murderer on the loose or an attempted murderer running on the loose attacking people. You know, the Flash usually, at the very least, would ask his team to start running scans to try to search for her.
Yeah, monitor
for, you know, and they'd come up with some kind of something to monitor for.
At least.
And that didn't come up at all. Like, no one seemed to give a shit about the Fiddler until other than Hartley. Until the very last scene
Hartley was dedicated worried about her because, like, Hartley's like, I'm going to fix this and I'm going after her at. You know?
Yeah.
and Barry and Iris and them are all like, "Oh, Frost, hey, what's going on? Hey, how's everything going? Oh yeah, Fiddler, yeah, we'll get to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like they got people working on this machine, and then they get the machine built, and like, well, we need to decide whether or not we're going to do this, and then just like, all right, well, in 8 hours, that machine's getting turned on one way or the other.
Yeah, and
better make a decision. And so they just spent 8 hours sitting around Team Flash's base trying to make this decision while the Fiddler was on the loose. Like, maybe the Flash
just turned the decision over to the new Snow Sister anyway. So
yeah,
they should have been taking care of the Rogue in their precinct.
Yeah,
you know, Central City needed them, and instead of them coming to the call to arms, they were having a powwow, and that is different from how the Flash normally the Flash has 18 things on his plate, but he's a speedster, so he's still taking care of them all.
I also found it kind of disturbing how quickly everyone was ready to just kill this new Snow Girl to bring Caitlin back, right? Also, I'm kind of bothered by how little care people have of Caitlyn dying, because Caitlyn died. She is dead. For this Keon to exist, Caitlyn is dead. And you know how they end the episode? They went out dancing. There's no funeral. There's not a single tear was shed
no
for
memorial
Caitlyn
whatsoever for Caitlyn.
the only person who seemed to have any concern about Caitlyn really was Chester. He was just like, she's helpful, and she, didn't sacrifice herself. She should, we should bring her back because she's useful or something.
Yeah.
And that was like it. That was like all the care we got about Caitlyn.
Yeah.
We got one guy who was passionate about Frost, and I appreciate
Frost's
him.
boyfriend was totally wanted to bring Frost back.
Honestly, he's the one person who had the most believable reaction to this whole situation.
Oh yeah, totally selfish. Totally, I want my girlfriend back. I don't give a shit about everybody else.
Totally in character. He doesn't know Caitlyn other than he worked with her for a while, and he accepted that she was willing to sacrifice herself to bring Frost. He's the only one that had a believable reaction to this situation. Everyone else was just like, well, Caitlyn's gone. And so I feel like that's a disgrace to the character of Caitlyn. Like, not the end result.
Run episode. It was not.
Like the end result of letting Keon decide. And I feel like the Flash should have come to that decision quicker than 8 hours later.
This was not Wallace's best work.
Yeah.
This was not. I won't say it's the worst of all the Flash episodes I've seen.
No.
But it might be. I would have to go back and rewatch, and I love most of the Flash episodes. So yeah.
This wasn't a good episode.
Really, it was not in the spirit of the show. It didn't fit how these characters normally react to things.
Yeah. Keon does seem like an interesting character.
Oh, absolutely. I like the idea of the character. I just, like you, I think with only 12 episodes left, this one means there's only 11 episodes.
11 episodes now, yeah.
Only 11 episodes left to build on the character and close off all the other threads that they're trying to tie off. That's a big order. And I don't want them to just do lip service. I want them to do, like, you and me, we were big Legend of Tomorrow fans.
Yeah.
Other people were hot and cold about it, but I will say the two of us were huge Legend of Tomorrow fans. And they deserve more than just a lip service closing off of their thread. They need at least a full episode dedicated to it. Probably two. Especially when they're going to bring in a character as phenomenal as Booster Gold. Booster Gold is such a fan favorite in the DC universe.
And I'm actually not a big fan of Booster Gold. I generally don't like Booster Gold overall.
He's an irritant, but he's a fan favorite.
But the actor that they have playing Booster Gold, I think fits the role in a way that I want to see how he takes it. And so, yeah.
And you want to see more than just an episode where he barely shows up in the end and see that he's Booster Gold. You want to see him do Booster Goldy things.
Yeah, yeah.
You want to see Skeet. You want to see Booster Gold use his future tech. You want to see him try to act like he's a superhero. Because that's the whole key of the character.
Yeah.
You don't bring him in and just name drop him and then drop it. And so I think they need at least an episode, probably two, to really round out that storyline. And with only 11 more episodes to go, it's not looking like they're going to get more than like a half an episode to do it all.
Yeah, it'll be the B plot of an episode about Keon learning that her sadness makes it rain.
Yeah.
If it continues like this episode went.
And that'll be the A plot, yeah.
Yeah.
The primary plot will be, oh look, Keon's got powers.
Yeah, it's weird when the B plot is substantially more interesting than the A plot, and then the main cast doesn't seem to care. Like, I know that Barry was doing a little bit of research trying to find a way to bring them both back, but even after they reached the conclusion that they can't bring them both back, they were still like hours away from making the decision of letting her choose for herself, and they're not doing anything about. Anyway, we're like 7 minutes after.
Yeah.
I think we made our point.
And we were going to possibly end early this week. Well, that didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a tendency to go off on tangents, though. But I think a lot of the people on our show like that because it makes for a more interesting, interactive show.
Yeah.
We didn't get any live chatters this week, so our regulars like Geek Guitar and stuff didn't show up, but the schedules happen. It's one of those kind of weeks. Hopefully we'll be back next week, but like I said, with health and everything going on, don't be surprised if we call off next week.
Hopefully I don't die as a popsicle between now and then.
Yeah.
We're getting over 2 feet of snow here. Jesus
just
Christ.
to warn people, there's a big snowstorm coming in from the northwest. It's already hitting Minnesota. They're getting about 2 feet of snow. They're talking about every place that this snowstorm hits getting possibly as much as 2 feet of snow. So depending on where the weather shifts, it might come down to Springfield.
I read a news report that was talking about several different areas of Minnesota that are getting hit with the storm. And the last one they said was like, and the area getting hit the hardest is Rochester. I was like, God damn it.
Yeah. And they're not sure exactly what direction the storm is going to take. So there's a possibility if it hits Springfield, it probably won't be until like Thursday or Friday. But if the wind goes in the other direction, it'll go up northeast. But it's looking like this is going to be that last big blow before the end of the winter. And they've been talking about us having a really harsh winter this year. If we're going to have it, it's this one. So people be careful. Plan just in case. My house is in quarantine for the week because of COVID anyway. The only place I'm going to is dialysis. If we get any more groceries, we're even going to get those delivered. So stay inside if you can. If you've got to, go to the store, stock up on things like bottled water and bread and milk and eggs and things that can get you through for the few days. In case, French toast, as my girlfriend just yelled. Whenever there's an emergency, you stock up on the makings for French toast.
You know, it's funny. This evening before we came home, we stopped at Target and we bought stuff to make French toast.
That's because in an emergency situation, you stock up on French toast because eggs, milk, and bread are the primary ingredients to French toast. And those are the three things that sell out in the stores, in addition to toilet paper.
Yeah, we're good on toilet paper. But we just needed
we needed some food. Toilet paper and a jumbo thing of paper towels.
I meant to buy some nail clippers because I didn't bring any with me on the trip, and so I haven't been able to cut them in like 3 weeks.
I bite my nails. It's not good when I do it.
Yeah.
And then we got some big bags of cat food, which is good. So that way the kitties are covered. We got cat food and kitty litter to cover for the week. So be prepared. Be safe. Remember, especially you Springfield drivers out there, remember that the road may not look iced up, but black ice is there. And so be cautious driving. This does not mean the typical Springfield thing of going either 5 miles an hour or 500. You can drive a reasonable 20 to 30 miles per hour down most roads as long as you're cautious and cognizant of what's going on around you. But if you're not good at driving in this, don't go out in it. If it's rainy or snowy and you're not good in it, there is nothing so important that it's worth risking your life. Stay indoors. And it's better than having. We went through a full quarantine for COVID. You can stay indoors for a week and only go out when you have to. And when you do, be careful. We'll catch everybody next week, hopefully. Like I said, there's a chance that we might postpone next week, but I'll give you an early warning about that right now, just in case. We sometimes do that if we're sick or if we've got other things going on, or like we can't get connections going.
Yeah, good luck, Doc. Oh man, COVID to me, COVID's a.
I'm trying my best not to catch it because I'm at a higher risk, but luckily I'm also fully vaccinated. I've got the most recent vaccination for Omicron.
You got the booster shots and all that jazz.
Yes, I'm fully boosted up. So that is a bonus. Even though the boosters wrecked me, this last one wasn't so bad. You're right, my girlfriend.
Yeah.
This last one wasn't so bad.
So,
but normally they keep my symptoms up to 11. We're going to catch everybody next
hungry,
week.
so
he's got to eat. I've got to finish eating. We will hopefully catch everybody next week, and hopefully Angel will be back. We'll be talking about more stuff, and maybe we'll fit in the spoiler episode for Quantum Mania, or we might wait an extra week. We'll see what happens. Anyway, same bad time, same bad channel. Play more games, watch more movies, have more fun. Remember, life's more than just the daily grind of a paycheck. And we'll catch you next time.
Peace out.
Peace
Bye.
Out. Bye.